Hi there YouTube, Joel from JONESY'S, and today we're going to be showcasing another diesel conversion, another Suburban. This one happens to be red and it's from Montana. They brought us a whole pile of parts, 2 vehicles, we turned it into one. Hopefully you enjoy this build. Stay tuned, please subscribe. Here she is, transplanted from Montana, Vilicus Farms, 1994 Chevy Suburban. They also brought us a 1992 Dodge truck that had been in an accident. Vilicus Farms has a very large organic farm in Montana, as you can see from the plate, and they needed a logistics vehicle. So to build a logistics vehicle, they said we need a Cummins, we need it simple, and we need it cheap. So we built this one on the cheap for them. They brought us a lot of parts, and we did the best we could with what we had. So let's go ahead and just get right to the nitty-gritty. Pop the hood. So you guys have all seen this scene before. Transplanted Cummins into a Chevy product. Went with a big air filter, our high mount AC. Able to utilize custom rear air conditioning head to accept the factory lines. Simple charge air crossover tube with one of our 2.5-inch DIY weld together intake flanges. Also utilized our crossover tube for the upper radiator hose and our air conditioning bracket. We fabbed up a very simple sheet metal fan shroud, 24-inch in diameter, to assist in the cooling. Made a throttle bracket that utilizes a 1994 TBI throttle cable. And then also, because our donor vehicle was a stick, we modified and created a throttle position sensor to utilize the US Shift 4L80 controller, the Quick 2 that we like to use, and you've seen on other builds that we've done. So kind of just showcasing, giving you guys a good video tour of the work that we did up here. Our conversion friendly manifold. And then we'll go on the inside. Kind of showcase what we did in there. We mounted the Quick 2 controller underneath this this cable. It looks messy, but this is actually the USB cable that we use to tune the transmission. I just kind of have it plugged in there, but there you can see the wiring harness. The harness goes down through the tunnel and connects right up directly to the transmission. This little bundle of harness right here is extra stuff. This is a very simple installation, so we are not going to have multiple shift maps, and we're not going to take advantage of all of the wonderful features that the US Shift Quick 2 has to offer on this build. But if you're doing yours, then you definitely could utilize that. This is a stock type, user-friendly. Try to keep everything as simple as you can. So we didn't modify the gauges at all, just hooked everything up the way that it should be, with the exception of we added this grid heat switch, which I'll explain here shortly. Going up under the hood here to expand on some of the installation details. Those guys right there are your grid heat solenoids. This orange wire is the factory 6.5 liter diesel. This one was a diesel Suburban to begin with, so it actually had glow plug circuit. So we wired in the existing glow plug wire to pick up off of that solenoid so that our glow plug light will work, and I'll demonstrate that here in a little bit. But the 6.5 liter harness, we just kept all the existing plugs and didn't terminate them, kept them intact so that any future troubleshooting, it'll be actually relatively simple to troubleshoot. Tied in right there, you can see that's pink wire. That is off of the existing ECM fuse, which is triggering our kill switch. Over here we use the Dodge alternator, and then wired it into our voltage regulator kit, our external voltage regulator kit, which you can see that relay right there. That relay is actually a charge relay. It's triggered by a keyed switch and ties directly into the battery. So a lot of the internal regulator kits on these Denso alternators, they have kind of a surging. We eliminate that by tying the feed wire directly to the battery and then controlling the exciter with a relay. So if you buy our relay kit, that's what you guys are going to get. Utilize the factory GM 6.5 liter radiator. There you can see how much we trimmed and brought the radiator forward so that we could utilize the Gen 2 fan mount and Gen 2 fan. And like I said, we fabricated just a very simple sheet metal fan shroud with these brackets to tie it right in. So I think that pretty much wraps that up. We'll shut the hood and let's go for our test drive. Show you guys what we did here for the grid heat. Just put a momentary rocker, just mounted it in a factory hole right there. And obviously the the lettering is not ideal, but it is what it is. And we'll see if we can change that. It was meant for the later model, the 95 and up, which has space for a vertical mount rocker, but this one was we're on a budget here, so hopefully you YouTube guys will give me a pass and not give me too many negative comments about that. But anyway, let me show you how all this works. Go ahead and turn the key on. You'll have a whole bunch of stuff light up and then it goes away. The only thing that is left is check gauges. The way I wired the grid heat is on a timed relay, which we will offer up as a kit on the website. So you turn the key on, you click it once, and the glow plug light comes on and then turns off. And you can go ahead and start the vehicle. Remainder of the lights go out and you are good to go. So let's go ahead and take this thing for a test drive. You can see we've got about 700 RPMs. It's getting to be dusk, so let's turn the lights on. All of the gauges are working correctly. So let's go for a test drive here. This was actually a very rewarding build because I didn't have to stress out about all of the intricate details. This is going to be a work truck. Like I said, they're going to go ahead and put it in rotation, and they might be placing orders for other models. So see the tack. I have it aggressively shifting into fourth gear lockup. There was the lockup. Hopefully you guys can hear that. But I have it locking up about 40 miles an hour, and this the Cummins, as all of you know, especially one that is completely stock like this one, needs lockup to happen early to take advantage of all that low end torque. So we'll let's go ahead and see how it drives. Noise wise, it's pretty darn good. I mean, there is definitely some vibration from the Cummins. There are some rattles, but it has significantly more power than the 6.5 liter diesel that was in it. As far as gearing, there we're in fourth and lockup about, like I said, 40 miles an hour. So keep that in mind when you guys are planning your build, your tire size, your cruise ratio, and what your governor speed is going to be. With this specific application, the governor speed is actually a hindrance. I think if it was going to be my personal vehicle, I would want to be able to rev this Cummins up a little bit more. I'd put some different springs in, but I understand why Vilicus Farms wanted to leave it stock, because they don't know who's going to be driving this. They have a lot of employees, so they kind of wanted to save it from itself and leave it totally bone stock. Don't do anything to the donor Cummins. So this is as installed 92 one-ton truck, 100, and I want to say I'm probably gonna quote it wrong, but it's like 160 some odd horsepower, really low horsepower, 400 foot-pounds of torque. And I have to say I'm impressed with how well it actually does. It does wind out and it does top out on the freeway. 70 miles an hour is doable, but it's not definitely not in the ideal RPM range for the Cummins. Now, slight lift and 35-inch tires would solve that, but that is not the point of this build. So we're just cruising around here, driving about between 30 and 50 miles an hour. These old country roads. It just drives really well. And this makes for a nice repurpose of these vehicles. The big blocks, the 454s, they are better suited in a hot rod. 6.5, you can throw it away as far as I'm concerned. But Cummins in these independent front suspension vehicles, trucks or Suburban, just makes such a nice vehicle to drive. Go back into the office and we'll go over the hard numbers for this build. As with all of our projects, we organize them in a spreadsheet. This is the kind of the running total of parts and labor for the 94 red Suburban Cummins swap. So we're just going to go down through the individual items here so you guys can know what to expect if you were going to be building a Suburban like this one. So we started out with a K2500 Suburban that was supplied by the customer, so there was no cost. Same is true for the Dodge truck, which gave up its 1992 Cummins 6BT. They Vilicus Farms towed everything out on one big giant trailer load and dropped it off, and then we took it from there. These are only the costs that I incurred after I received the Suburban and the donor vehicle, and what I actually charged the customer. They authorized me to put this information out there because they thought it would be a good information for anybody that's considering doing one of these conversions themselves, or having a shop like myself do it. So we'll start banging down through the
different parts and pieces that are required to complete one of these. First and foremost, the Cummins adapter plate, which adapts the 6BT over to the 4L80E transmission. We get a lot of questions as to whether or not you can convert over to a 4L60. Not recommended for a 6BT. They make too much torque. Half-ton vehicles are not heavy duty enough to work well with the Cummins, so 4L80 adapter is what we like to use. Along with that, we use a Ford application starter. You can buy those on our website for $150. Our HD high mount kit requires the use of the Dodge Denso alternator, which, as all of you guys probably know, needs a voltage regulator kit, because in the Dodge application they are regulated by the ECM, but in a 94 Suburban there's no ECM to regulate the alternator, so we produce a kit. Kind of outlined that earlier on in the video, so if you guys have any more questions about any of these parts, just send me a message. Our engine mounts, reuse the Dodge rubber isolators. Transmission controller, quick 2 from US Shift. Throttle position sensor, $125. We custom made a throttle position sensor and bracket that utilizes a General Motors TBI sensor and pigtail that adapts over to the VE pump. Throttle pedal is a standard throttle pedal for a same year, same model Suburban or truck with a gas engine, and a throttle cable with a TBI. So a 94 and earlier, the Vortec throttle cables won't work. We custom fabricated a little bracket, which you guys saw in the video. Swapped out all of the transmission fluid as well as the transfer case fluid, and installed new filter and gasket. So we had some expense there. This is our high mount air conditioning bracket kit, which again is kind of highlighted in the video. Custom rear AC compressor head, oil, antifreeze, radiator hoses. We get a lot of question about radiator hoses. We use a steel crossover tube. This allows all you other conversions, if they're not doing a GM application, you can adapt hose sizes by using this metal tube. If you let us know what size inlet and outlets you have, we can adapt over. Luckily, our high mount AC bracket kit standardized with a 1.75 inch and 3/4 upper outlet, which is compatible with the General Motors GM diesel radiator. So we pieced together some radiator hoses and some steel pipe, using some steel pipe and the factory hoses. Serpentine belt, I have this in here. It is included in our kit. You can see over here in the notes, no cost, but I wanted to make sure that the customer retained the part number, so if they ever have to replace it, they would be able to reference the part number. The Dodge fan blade needed to be replaced because it was damaged in the rollover crash. Our HD high mount kit only utilizes the offset 94 through 2002 12 and 24 valve Cummins fan hub and pulley. Otherwise you'd have interference issues with the tensioner assembly. Now, while we were in there, we might as well install a brand new fan clutch. They're not that expensive, $39. We fabricated a new sheet metal fan shroud. Charged the customer $50 to fabricate that. It was just a simple sheet metal, not a whole lot of expense in terms of parts there or materials, just a little bit of fabrication time. Place the oil filter. This is the part number for the large air filter with the 4-inch inlet. That is the part number for the 90-degree intake boot that adapts over from the turbo to that air filter. And then we needed a short little piece of steel 4-inch pipe or tube to adapt over. I have that stuff laying around, so I didn't charge them for any of that. So our crossover tube from our air intake I needed to adapt over to eliminate the factory 90-degree adapter that came on our Cummins. So that's just a turbo outlet to a standard 2.5-inch hose. Fuel filter without the sensor. We don't really need provisions for the water sensor in the bottom of the fuel filter, so that's the part number for all you guys that want to delete that. Miscellaneous fuel hose and fittings. Our U-welded crossover air tube, $65 for that. This is exhaust downpipe and other exhaust requirements. So if you have a donor vehicle, you can use the downpipe, but you're still going to have to take it to an exhaust shop or buy some exhaust pipe to connect it all up. I charged $100 worth of kind of materials to piece that stuff together, eliminate the catalytic converter, and then weld in an intermediate tube. Also connects up to our low rear mount exhaust manifold. Drive lines, unfortunately, there's no way around this cost. It is a little high, $625, but that includes a brand new front drive line and then shortening, rebuilding, and balancing the rear drive line with all upgraded top of the line U-joints. Heater hoses and fittings, hose clamps, killer dowel pin tab. Most of you guys can fabricate that yourselves. If you're going to take on a conversion project like this, this is not out of the wheelhouse. It's just a simple tab that goes underneath one of the retaining bolts for that front cover, and you'll be good to go. Don't have to worry about your killer dowel pin. Miscellaneous gaskets and seals for the engine as well as the transmission. Power steering pump. So we have a hydro boost. Had to eliminate the vacuum pump, and so we went with the direct drive. Buy this from us on the website, $285. These used to be very, very hard to find in a used fashion, but now we sell them as a new. The relay and the switch for the grid heat. That's pretty self-explanatory in the video. You guys saw how that works. Transfer case extension. So basically the engine and transmission gets shifted back approximately 3 inches, 2 3/4, and so consequently you need to extend the transfer case shifter by about 2 3/4 of an inch. We just cut and section and weld in a new steel rod to make up the difference. No charge for any parts associated with that. Miscellaneous wiring, supplies, conduit. You are going to have to, as you saw from the videos, rewrap your harness, secure things up with with some zip ties, clean some things up there, and you're going to have some butt connectors and heat shrink and things like that. So we charge $25 for those. $50 for freshening up the engine compartment with paint, cleaners, degreasers. We don't like to work on nasty oily stuff, so we always spend quite a bit of time cleaning, degreasing, kind of making things nice so that at the end of the day, when you guys come pick up your new rig, at least everything looks good and is clean, and it's easier for us to track down any potential leaks. Coming down to the end of the list here. We got diesel fuel on our test drives, $80. And here is where some big expenses come in. Labor for this project ended up being 110 hours at $75 an hour, $8,250 for us to do the installation. I have a factor in here for shipping and miscellaneous supplies, $250. And then this is another thing of note, the Washington sales tax. The government has changed the regulations on how we collect sales tax. We are in a state that collects sales tax. So we, by law, are now required to obtain sales tax from out-of-state individuals and out-of-state customers, and then they can file for a return or a rebate with the Washington state government to get this back. I thought I would put it in there just so that I can alert everybody that that's a pretty large expense. The grand total is right at $15,000, and that is kind of a bare bones conversion. Obviously, we don't stick to any numbers. We don't quote anybody, but I think all of you guys, if you're looking for a work truck, simple simple conversion and you have us do all of the work, then this is kind of what you can expect to spend. I would also reference you guys over to my other video where I analyze another diesel conversion cost that is a little bit more elaborate. It's got quite a few other items to give you guys a good idea as to what you can expect to spend if you're considering doing a conversion like this. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and good luck with your project.